Good evening. Will the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017, please come to order? I'd like to start the meeting off by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. If anybody feels free to join me, please do. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So for the benefit of those who may or may not have participating in a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. 1, we will read the legal call to the meeting as published in local newspapers. 2, the applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the commission and others present what's being requested of the property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. There will be clarifying questions from commissioners. Then there will be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. First, those who wish to support the application may come forward, and second, those who oppose the application will then be invited to come forward and express their opinion. As this is a public hearing, it must be recorded. It's necessary for all speakers to identify themselves and state their name and address before addressing the commission. The applicant is then free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing in the regular meeting, at which time the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing to the decision of the commission and has a right to appeal in Superior Court if desired. Decisions of the meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9. Seated this evening are the following Planning and Zoning members: Rich Meyer, Josh Hirschman, I'm Frank DeAndrea, Dick Wallace, and Alan Brown. Staff present tonight are Reggie Reed, and our recording secretary this evening is our guest, Joan Dudley. Our videographer this evening is Peter Schultz. So Dick, our secretary, please read the legal notice.
Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on August 2nd, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the Nathaniel B. Green Community Center, 32 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, in the Monunketuk Room on the second floor for the following purposes. Jason Karen for the Guilford Moorings, 505 Whitfield Street, map 29, lot 107, zone C2M. Coastal area management and site plan revision for a 10 by 22 foot outdoor open service bar with roof expanded to 30 feet by 12 feet, concrete patio approved on 5/18/05 to 30 feet by 30 feet, section 273-91, article 9. 66 High Street, LLC. Application to amend special permit for 66 High Street LLC to include 25 Halleck Street, map 33, lot 63, zone R1 for a swimming pool and clubhouse for the residences at 66 High Street, section 273-19. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communication will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 12th day of July, Frank DeAndrea, Chairman.
Thank you. We do have a request to continue the second item on our agenda, which is the Derek Streeter special permit for an accessory apartment that's been requested to continue to August 16th. Do you guys want to make a motion?
To do it.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so if anybody was here for that, you don't need to stay because we're not going to hear that tonight. It's been moved to the August 16th meeting. Thanks, guys. So we're going to get into the first, our first public hearing, which is Diane Auger. But before we get into that, from the continuation of last meeting, Reggie, do we have an update from Town Council on all the questions that we had and the recommendations for the zoning board?
You do, and I will tell you that George Kroll spoke to in-house Town Council Pam Millman, and it was determined that Diane Auger's special permit application was correct because she became the owner of the property on July 24th, 2015. And before you start, I would just like to give you a little update or synopsis on the events at this property. I was not at the last meeting, so I don't know what exactly was said. If I may.
Please.
Okay. Dino Esposito at one point was the owner of the property, and the Planning and Zoning Commission granted special permits to allow sale and processing of organic topsoil. This is at 5051 Durham Road. The first permit was issued April 21st, 2004, and then it had to be renewed, and it was reissued August 6, 2008. This was to Dino. And then again reissued once more on February 1st, 2012. The special permits for these approvals were never filed in the town clerk's office, so it rendered them non-effective. Diane Auger Esposito, on July 24th, 2015, Diane Auger Esposito became the owner of 5051 Durham Road. A quitclaim deed for the property was filed in the Guilford Land Records the same day. On August 17th, 2015, Diane asked that the special permit granted on February 1st, 2012 be put in her name. She then made the special permit effective by filing it with the town clerk. And then we come to the latest application on June 5th, 2017. Diane Auger submitted a special permit application, again to allow sale and processing of organic topsoil. The application also stated renew special permit granted 2/1/12 with the 8 conditions of approval. So one of the things that the minutes from that meeting said on July 12th was that she was supposed to speak with environmental planner Kevin McGee regarding the conditions of approval. I do have a new revised statement from our environmental planner. He did meet with Diane Auger, and one condition that needed to be done was a berm needed to be reconstructed, and they did that. That berm has now been reconstructed, and so all the conditions of that approval have been met. Now, this application was heard once on July 12th, 2017, and then it's been continued to today to allow enough time for George to talk to town council. And she said that as long as the owner of the property signed the application, didn't even have to be the applicant, could have been someone else, then it was a proper application. And the commission can consider this application. And I'll give you the new,
Conditions from Kevin.
yes. Just give me a moment to find it. Here, so,
You were gonna go for it?
would you like to read this?
I can read it.
Do that now?
Yeah, I'll just do it. This is dated today from Kevin McGee regarding the 5051 Durham Road. The applicant is looking to renew a special permit application for the sale and processing of organic topsoil originally approved by the commission on April 21st, 2004 with conditions. Stormwater from the topsoil pile drains towards a wetland area that discharges to the Connococheague River, which has been classified by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection as an impaired waterway due to high bacteria. On May 14, 2008, the Inland Wetlands Commission approved a regulated activity to reconstruct stormwater retention berm, construct drainage basin, and level spreader as shown on existing condition plans with proposed composting site plan dated April 8, 2008 by Criscolo Engineers. The Inland Wetlands Commission approval can be extended to April 8, 2018. Since the last meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the applicant has reinstalled the berm on the south side of the topsoil piles. The previous conditions of approval should be modified to include a condition that the permanent erosion control measures be maintained in accordance to the approved plans prepared by Criscolo Engineering. LLC titled Drainage Improvement Plan Sheet 2 of 3 dated April 8th, 2008. So Kevin's original letter that he gave us for the previous meeting with those conditions, including this other condition that he puts in here, should be part of our approval?
It should be.
Okay.
It should be part of your consideration
Okay.
for this application.
All right, so, thank you very much for clarifying that. So, the applicant, Diane Auger, do you have anything more that you'd like to present? Are you here? Do you have anything else, or?
Diane, I have a question for you. You met with Kevin. Do you have any problems with any of his conditions that he's laid out to you?
No, I did what he told me to do.
And then the other conditions that, are remaining from his list that we read out last time, do you have any problems with those?
No.
Okay.
Anybody from the public have any questions at this time? Would anybody like to speak in favor? Would anybody like to speak against? Just put your name and address for the record, please.
Dino Esposito, 803 Totucket Road, Northford. Like I said last month, I just want to bring it to your attention again that when she filled out the application, she used a fictitious name, and she put down that she was the owner, which she was not at that time. So that makes the application fraudulent, which makes the permit fraudulent, and you cannot renew a fraudulent permit. If you guys choose to, then we'll have to take it the next step further. But that's basically the facts. If anybody wants to see paperwork, I have it here, but it's hard for me to believe that somebody can go in and get a permit on somebody else's land without being their agent and without owning the land and without their permission, and they just do it. It's hard for me to believe that. So that's about it. Okay?
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody else? I say, so hearing none, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, take that up. Our next one has been continued. We have Jason Karen for the Guilford Moorings. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Jason Karen, 505 Woodfield.
Talk to us.
How we doing? So I'm here to, I guess, in a previous management, built a bar that was not permitted, or they didn't go through the proper steps. So when I came in, Reggie had asked me to go through the steps, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm kind of cleaning up their mess and going through, and we went through the zoning board of appeals and got that granted, and now I'm here before you.
Okay, and this was for the site plan revision and the CAM application for a 10 by 22 outdoor open service bar, correct?
That's correct.
With roof, expanded to 30 by 12, concrete patio, okay.
So you're not adding anything new, you're just doing the paperwork. for
We're
what
just
was
doing the
already done.
paperwork that never was done.
Good. Good for you.
Got some letters, right?
Yeah, there are a couple.
Do you want to read them?
Do you want to go first or you want me?
Oh, I would love to go first. We have the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. This is our friend Carol Szymanski. And she's talking about the coastal site plan approval for an upland bar and food concession on existing outdoor concrete pad with roof, 505 Whitfield. You're the applicant. Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring this coastal site plan approval request received July the 10th, 2017 for us to review and comment. She describes the project by saying the applicant proposes to serve food and alcoholic beverages outdoors from an existing roofed concrete pad. The site is Zone C, M2, and allows outdoor food service. The site hosts two flood zones, AE12 and VE13. In the event of a flood, all outdoor storage of food and beverages, as well as outdoor tables, should be moved inside. A public access walkway has been approved and permitted by the office. No tables and chairs should be installed within the public access walkway to block its intended use by the public. All activities associated with this proposal, such as outdoor tables and chairs, must occur in the upland area with no seating on any overwater areas. Coastal resources present on the site include coastal hazard area, coastal waters, general coastal resources. The conclusion is that she hopes that these comments are helpful to the board. Pursuant to CGS Section 22A110, we request that these comments be read into the record at a public hearing for the application. If she can be of any further service to us, please give her a call. Carol.
And then there are two other letters. One is from Kevin McGee, the environmental planner from the town. Have you seen any of these letters?
No, I have not.
I think they're positive, so you're fine. This one is dated July 24th, 2017. The applicant is filing an after-the-fact application for an installation of an open service bar on the concrete patio. The work was conducted in a FEMA wave velocity zone VE13 and a flood hazard area AE12. The construction had minimal impact on the adjacent coastal resources, as noted in Carol Seismecki's CTDEB Environmental Analyst 2 letter. No tables or chairs should be installed within the public access owned by the town of Guilford. You have no problem with that? And then there's one here from Dennis Johnson, the Director of Health, and he says that the applicant's proposed variance request for outdoor service bar will not conflict with the location or function of the septic system currently existing on file. Do you like these?
If I could.
Yeah. Go ahead. She's got a whole
Do you have any questions from the commissioners on this?
I actually have a question.
Please ask it.
The total number of seats in the restaurant and outdoor seating area is approximately what? 162?
160.
160, and you don't want any more than that, is that correct?
Not in this.
All right. Okay, that's it.
Can't, right?
It's 160. I just want to put it in the, whatever I have to read later. We are limiting it to 160.
165 was the number.
Okay, so it's just, we don't have that on our sheet, so I just want to know what it is. So 165 is what we're limiting it to.
The variance has been granted and filed,
Great.
Perfect.
so it's effective.
It is effective. Rich, anything? No? Good? I'm good. Alan?
165.
165. Can't be more than that. Somebody from the audience would like to ask a clarifying question. Okay, anybody like to speak in favor? Anybody like to speak against?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, 66 High Street, Guilford LLC. This is the first public hearing to be continued to August 16th for a mandatory second public hearing. Good evening. Plenty of seats at the front if anybody wants to come and sit. Going deep into the hall there. Wants to be in the front.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission.
Good evening.
My name is Marjorie Shansky, and I represent 66 High Street, Guilford LLC in connection with this application to amend the special permit for 66 High Street development to include the property at 25 Halleck Street. As you know, in the submission, I've provided a letter dated July 10th in which I go through your special permit criteria and explain how the application meets your standards. So I won't go through that this evening in the interest of time, but I have an additional letter because I did have an opportunity to review the June 21st hearing video, which was a prior application, and in the interest of meeting time limits and dealing with notice issues and responding to your questions, we resubmitted an application, and we have a slightly different site plan about which I'd like to talk. And actually, Alex, could you move that a little closer for the commission to see? That's who I want to see it. This is Alex Parisi from Luke's Consulting Engineers. Mr. Nault is out of state today. So we're going to look at the bottom plan first, sorry. Because that is the site plan that's been submitted with the package. And it shows the property at 25 Halleck Street and the proposed swimming pool and the existing house, which would be the pool house or clubhouse, and has the various amenities, the privacy fencing, the 6 feet privacy fencing that is matching to the fencing of the 66 High Street development that was approved by the Historic District Commission. It's an attractive cedar fence. And there's only a single parking space that's suggested, one handicap space, Everything is landward of the 100-foot setback for coastal resources, so we comply with that element of the regulations. Among the questions that were asked, well, because we are a new hearing, let me go through some of the operational details of the proposed clubhouse. The hours of the pool and the clubhouse will be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Lighting, which was a specific question, is shown on the plan and will be mounted, a little entry lighting for the clubhouse and around the pool area on bollards that are 42 inches high, which is lower than the 6-foot privacy fence. So there won't be any light glaring off of the property. Yes, everything will comply with dark sky, no question. In fact, for the continuation, I hope to provide you with a specification of the actual fixture. There will be rules governing the use of the pool and the clubhouse that, among other things, because it is a common interest ownership community and that is traditional, that among other things require the presence of a resident for guests at the pool. So at all times, the person who is responsible for conducting themselves in accordance with the rules will be on the site. There will be somebody at the property periodically to enforce that.
But not full-time.
I have to ask. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I will ask.
Well, and I guess, more from the standpoint of just verifying that the actual property owner is there with their guests, someone to keep an eye on what's going on so that things don't get out of hand, but I'm sure you're going to get to that.
Exactly. And there will be no exterior speakers or any device to provide amplified anything, including music, to the area. All other access to the property, except for that one handicap spot, will be through the gate from the 66 High Street property. And that includes guests, because there's visitor parking at the 66 High Street property, and they can walk to the pool and gain entry through the gate with their host. Now, I have appended to this letter that I'm going to submit momentarily, although I only made one copy of one exhibit, and perhaps you'll understand why. It's on the original, so I want to talk about it before I give you your copies. The first aspect of this exhibit is the deed easement for what was referred to variously in the hearing in June as the extension of the Norton Avenue extension. And this is an easement. It's recorded. It's part of the 66 High Street deed, and it provides for a right-of-way unto the grantee and its successors and assigns forever for all purposes whatsoever over, upon, and through that certain piece of land, and then describes what that extension looks like. And in legal parlance, for all purposes whatsoever is about as broad and generous an easement as exists in the jurisprudence. I've also appended a picture or a segment of the Guilford Assessor's map that shows the meter property, and it has shown through the sketching of Mr. Nault, this Norton Street extension, the location of the major property. The next piece, and it's the reason it only has one copy, is that it's all toner. And that is a segment of a map recorded in the Guilford Land Records that is a survey, again, showing this extension and establishing the location of the easement. And then finally, Mr. Nault has provided a colored copy of the easement showing that portion that relates to the major property and that portion that relates to the Perkins property. But all of it is subject to this very broad easement in favor of 66 High Street. So I would now pass out. This is the original and your copies of the letter.
Be nervous.
Hmm?
Be nervous.
If you see something in it as you go along that I've neglected to mention, please call it out and I'll talk about it. So item number 1 were some of the general operational elements which I've shared with you. Item number 2 is this easement and the corresponding documentation. Alex Parisi, as I've said, an engineer from Luke's, is here to talk about the site plan. Should I leave anything uncovered? I will say this, that the patio area or the walkway around the pool and any other walkway sort of from the gate to the pool and the handicap spot are all being done with porous pavement. So everything will continue to provide infiltration. And there was a question about the percent, now I'm going to suggest this to you, and because Mr. Nault is out of town and his file was not available to us, if it needs clarification or you have other questions, we'll talk about them perhaps on the 16th. But the increase in impervious is about 9%. Well, no, pardon me. The increase in coverage is about 9%. It's not a 9% increase in imperviousness because we're using porous pavement for all of the additional sort of walking areas. And this is still below the coverage requirement in the zoning district. Okay. Another issue that was raised and that's pertinent to your special permit standards is effect on property value. And I have a letter from Eric Glidden, who is a licensed Connecticut certified general real estate appraiser with 36 years of experience on the shoreline. And he went to the property, he and I actually went together to the property, and he reviewed the application, he reviewed other records and maps in the town hall. And you will read his letter for yourselves, but he concludes that the market value of neighboring properties is not adversely affected by the introduction of the proposed in-ground pool amenity or by the alteration of the existing single-family dwelling as a pool clubhouse to accommodate the pool use. And so I will provide his letter and exhibits for the record. In response to another question, there will be no overnight accommodations or guest rooms in the clubhouse building. And its hours are limited to the hours I referenced above, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. There was a question on June 21st about the number of bathrooms in the clubhouse. The number is 2. There are 2 bathrooms. Question?
It's just a general question, and I'm thinking about that gate. Will there be a security feature on the gate that people will swipe a card to get into the area?
There will be a security feature for sure on the gate. It will not be an open gate, but it will, yes, it will have some security feature, although it will also have, yes.
So will there be like some sort of property owner identification that will unlock the security feature, or will it just be like a lock that you have to, or a key or something?
I appreciate the question. It's a detail I'll have to get an answer for, but let me make a note. With things like swimming pools, it's in the interest of the owner as well to have access secure, so that's not a problem. I just unfortunately don't know the detail. I would also say about the pool, and it's important, that it's going to be a uniform depth of 4.5 to 5 feet. It's not going to have a diving board, because diving boards are diving boards, but they also can be noise generators, and this is just really a lap pool and a cool yourself off pool. And there was a question among the commissioners about FEMA and the issue of substantial improvement because the property is located in the AE flood zone. And that is a question well asked. Based on value, based on estimated costs of implementation, they will not be exceeding the substantial improvements barrier for FEMA and flood compliance. I want to say that all pool equipment and any chemicals associated with the pool will be stored in the clubhouse, which is above base flood elevation, so that will provide a feature of safety for those materials as well. And I think that I want to state for the record that I've confirmed with Reggie Reed prior to the hearing that the certified receipts from the notices are in the file, have been returned to the town, so that's in order. And we have received a letter from Kevin McGee, which you may be interested in reading to the record.
That in right now.
All right.
Don't mind. Okay, it's dated July 24th, so I think you've seen this. The applicant is looking at converting the residential house to a clubhouse with a swimming pool. The property is located in a FEMA AE elevation 10 feet flood zone. All the proposed work except a small portion of the silt fence installation is located greater than 100 feet from a coastal resource. The plans for the project have sedimentation and erosion control measures designed to protect the nearby tidal wetlands. The Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, CTDEP, regulates the discharge of pool water and requires the pool contractors to be registered under the general permit for the discharge of swimming pool water, wastewater. The general permit provides standards that the contractors must follow while working on pools, which include limits on chemicals being discharged and the requirement to discharge to subsurface infiltration systems. In order to make sure that the natural resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. First, any proposed outdoor lighting fixtures should be downward-facing fixtures certified as dark sky-friendly lighting. Second, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer shall be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any site work. Soil stockpiles should be contained by silt fencing and/or hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. And three, all discharge from the swimming pool to be subsurface infiltration system and be discharged in accordance to the latest version of the CTDEP general permit for discharge of swimming pool wastewaters. You don't have any problem with any of those
I
conditions?
have confirmed with the developer that those conditions are all satisfactory.
And then there's one other letter from Dennis Johnson, and that's dated July 28th. The applicant's proposed swimming pool / clubhouse will require relocation and reconstruction of the existing septic system to accommodate the pool bathroom facilities. A limited area exists on the lot to permit installation of a septic system. It is recommended that the applicant's proposed swimming pool and clubhouse be permitted with the following condition. One, the septic system for the swimming pool and clubhouse shall be designed by a professional engineer. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Are there going to be showers aside from?
Yes, there are two showers. It's a changing room situation, so there's a place to shower off, a bathroom, and an area for changing.
One thing that came up last time was renting the clubhouse out for functions.
Yes, it's not, certainly not, it's not going to be used by not residents of the association, but it's not intended for that use at all. And I would say, with some emphasis, that it will not have the amenity associated with a place that is nicer to go to than the unit they already own. Every unit has its own patio, so this is not seen as being a necessary place to bring people. It is seen as an accessory to the swimming pool. It contains this sort of area, what I call in my letter to you, an area of refuge, this sitting area. It may be that somebody wants relief from the heat for a period. It may be that a storm like tonight's comes up suddenly, and instead of going back to your unit, you just want to come in out of the rain. There may be a treadmill or a stair climber, just very, very not situated in a way that says this is a place for a party. This is an accessory to the swimming pool.
How many parking spaces do you have for this, for the people that come to visit? There's one area that has a spot for, around the building there, where it has a spot for people to park. How many people would be able to park their car there?
Let me say this. I will have to ask the developer what the number is, because I don't know that number, but it is a number that satisfied your regulations for adequacy at the time of approval of the special permit for the development itself. I will get you that number. Let me add it to my little list.
Question is, with that many people in that community, if they have now you have a swimming pool here, and people will have their families come over, and their friends come over, and their children come over, and they're going to need a parking space. Now, you have in that community, from what I understand, because I went down to talk to the people, they have 2 parking spaces for their cars in their garage, and they have 2 parking spaces outside. Now, I'm not saying they will or they won't, but most people are going to be very unhappy if they come home and all those parking spaces around the back are all taken, and they find somebody parked in their spot. So my question is there enough parking for the facility to make the people that are living there now happy with the fact that if people come in to go use that pool, and if they bring families, say you get 4 families that are having a birthday party or something, and they want to use the pool because it's a brand-new pool, and I'm sure they're going to want to use it. What kind of a problem are we going to have for the people that own the property there now, as far as parking is concerned? Because there is no parking other than this one little area, and your one handicap spot.
My response to that is that I will get you the number of parking spaces, and I will tell you, albeit anecdotally, well, a couple of anecdotal pieces of information. Of the, I believe it's 27 units that are currently constructed and occupied, there's not a child among the residents. So yes, there could be grandchildren, there could be children of adult age, but this is not a situation where there is a high existing population that will generate the traffic that you're talking about. And I would also suggest, because we've all been around sort of this kind of development with this kind of pool, and there's no question that there are periods of use, but there are many more and longer periods of very limited use. So I don't think that that's a problem, but I will get the number for you, and we can explore that further.
Well, that's something I would hope that people sitting out in the audience would think about. Because
It's an amenity, it's not as though this is primary, this is simply an amenity to the ownership.
property, and they're going to have parties, and this pool is part of their living. And when they have family, I would think they're going to, I'm not going to argue back and forth with you, but I'm just
She's going to
worried,
get us the information.
I'm just worried about the fact
I
that,
beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman? What did you say?
You said you get us the
I
information,
will
so-
get you that information.
I'm just
Your
worried that they're
question
going to
will be
be
answered.
okay with that, that's all.
I will get you
Counselor, I
that.
have a question.
Yes.
I went over and took a ride around the area just to familiarize myself, but I don't recall, and I don't know if you have the answer right now, these folks might, but is there any restriction on parking in the street in that area? And I guess I'm asking that question that it would be pretty easy for the guests and whatever to just park their cars on the right-of-way up against the curb and then down the street and across the front. So is there parking restrictions in the street, or is it wide open? Do you know?
Well, when I was at the property and walked to and from the property, and there are photographs in Mr. Glidden's letter, and of course, the neighbors who are there day in, day out will know better, but I do not recall having seen anything that had restrictions as to parking.
I didn't see any in here. And so I guess, just trying to foresee where there potentially could be a problem, do you think that, and of course, it's a leading question, sorry. My concern would be, I'll phrase it that way, that the parking in the streets will fill up pretty quickly during times of high usage. And would that be controlled by access limited to the security gate going into the complex? Or will there be an entrance to the front of what is now the house so people could park in the street and go in?
The access to the pool is through the security gate from 66 High Street.
Would they go through the clubhouse? Would there be an opening at the club?
I have to ask the developer that, but that will be locked too. There's not free entry into that either.
Right, so I guess I guess what I'm envisioning, and I always try to, try and figure out the unintended consequences beforehand, is, if they have a right-of-way for any intended use, which is anything, they could park there up against the curb. That's within the parking regulations of the town of Guilford, and it allows parking on residential streets. So potentially, even though there used to be parking spaces on what is now the grass, without that, they could just park along the curb all the way around the property, as far as I know.
I'm not going to speculate on that, and I'm not going to suggest one way or the other, whether that extension is a city street. It's there by use and occupation and by deeded easement, but,
That would be covered under the easement, though, for any use would mean for parking.
one might say that, but that's what the easement says.
Yeah, that is what it says. All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, and, those public streets, not that that's intended at all, because it is truly an expectation out of experience and research that this is not a high-demand use, it is a lovely amenity, and that the city streets are available to the occupants all around the city of Guilford, town of Guilford, so that's what makes them city streets.
Question?
Mr. Tracy, do you have anything to add?
Parking spaces at 25 High Street from Norton Avenue were an issue in the last hearing. I
Yes.
believe, looking at the new plan, that's only that one parking.
One parking space.
And that would suffice handicap and also access for maintenance.
Well, thank you for asking that, Mr. Wallace. I do have a copy of that earlier plan underneath this plan, but the parking is reduced to the one handicap spot. And I've confirmed with the developer that the maintenance person can function through the gate and park on the 66 High Street property and not disturb anyone. Yeah. Understood. We've eliminated that.
Alan's question will be answered next meeting. Rich's, yours will be answered next meeting. Anybody have any other questions right now?
I'm good.
All right. Anybody from the audience would like to ask a question at this time? And please come up, state your name and address for the record. And the microphone is for the camera to pick you up, so please use it, even though...
Kristen Floyd, 31 High Street, property owner at 59 Norton Avenue as well. We were here on June 21st, and we asked a number of questions, including how access was going to be determined. Commissioner Meyer asked that question, and we were promised an answer at this meeting. So, I'm surprised that it's being carried forward again. I also, in the first meeting, the pool was described as 8 feet deep, not 4.5 or 5 feet deep. So I'm wondering if that's a change. If so, it wasn't really clearly articulated. And another question is, will the clubhouse have refrigeration or food service capability?
Please.
In listening to the tape or the video, I did hear a question about access, but I thought that I did not perceive it to be a question about the security mechanism. So I apologize for that, but we'll get that to you. With respect to the depth of the pool, it's not fair, Mr. Nault is not here. I would suggest that he may have misspoken. I have confirmed with the developer that it is a uniform depth, the kind they have at spas and places where it's intended not for jumping into, it's intended for lap swimming and cooling off. No, it is either 4.5 feet uniform, and I'm hedging and saying maybe 5 feet, but it's a uniform depth. There's
But it
no.
will not exceed 5 feet at any point.
Correct. I'm just adding 6 inches of wiggle room there because I'm not the pool builder. And yes, there will be a little kitchenette area that has running water and probably a refrigerator, but not a kitchen.
So if there were to be like a party, then they were having it catered, that would be the prep area to bring the food at, kind of kitchen?
Again, it's unclear to me why anybody would do that, given that it's not going to be a finished space, and the units are, lovely units. But yes, let us suggest that if there were, that would, because I hear the laughing among the neighbors. It's not intended for that kind of space. It's really a recreational refuge.
You also have a question? Come on up, just.
The name of the appraiser again? I'm sorry, it's Elizabeth McCartney, and that's 50 High Street. What was the name of the appraiser again, ma'am?
Eric Glidden.
Gliden? Okay. And where is he from?
His office is in Iverton.
Iverton, okay, very good. And why did you choose him?
Mr. Glidden has 36 years of experience, largely on the shoreline, and I've been acquainted with him for 32 of those 36 years.
So he usually kind of gives you the appraisal you're looking for?
No.
Okay, just curious.
He's a registered, general real estate appraiser, and that is an unkind suggestion.
Oh, so how much was Mr. Glidden paid for the, was it the
Is
typical?
that relevant to the zoning application right now?
It is.
Well, we have a appraiser that is a certified appraiser that we've taken, and if you guys have one that you'd like to provide to us as well, we would be happy to take that as well.
Who do you mean by you? You mean me, Elizabeth?
Whoever you are representing, or if somebody absolutely has another appraisal, we will absolutely take that at any point.
No, I was just
Okay,
curious
so-
about his name,
okay.
how much he was paid. Is it the standard appraisal rate?
That has nothing to do with we're a land use commission,
Right, exactly.
so that really has no bearing on us right now, so please move on.
Except for the fact that one of the qualifications is that she brought a letter forward from an appraiser
Right.
saying that our
And I'd love to
values
see,
of our properties weren't going to go up and they weren't going to go down.
right, and if anybody in the audience has another letter from another appraiser saying opposite that, we will absolutely take that as well and put it in.
I was
So,
just curious as
okay.
a citizen who lives on the same
Okay,
street.
could we please move on?
Certainly.
Thank you.
I would also add that as a real estate lawyer practicing for 32 years, I have a Rolodex full of appraisers, and I called Mr. Glidden for this one.
And you said because you have a nice relationship with him.
I have a nice relationship with
Excellent.
all of my appraisers.
Great. All right. So you asked a very good question about how would it be enforced? So we can anticipate that that would be responded to at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I believe you did say you will address that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, very good. And what, I don't know if this is your purview as a real estate attorney, but what does the building look like? What's the pool house going to look like? Is that your purview or someone else's?
I want to get on the record. The house, and we'll be happy to bring you an elevation too, but the house is going to look just like a residence, because it is, and it's going to be reclad with the clapboard that matches 66 High Street, so it's going to be a lovely aesthetic enhancement.
So you just said it was going to be a residence, but no one can stay there?
No, it has a residential appearance, just
A
like it has
residential
now.
appearance.
Correct.
Kind of like the telephone buildings throughout the state. They have residential appearances.
Your words, not mine.
Okay. So that, it's going to kind of blend. So will that be available at the next meeting, what it looks like?
So you'll have an elevation for us?
Would you like an elevation? I'm
Sure.
happy to provide.
Why not?
Because it would be kind of hard to vote on something as, if you don't know what it looks like, right, I suppose?
So we'll have that at the next meeting.
Perfect.
Definitely.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, while you're entertaining questions. Sure. I've received a note that card access from the owner, same as the card access to each building lobby. That is the access to the gate. It is a card access.
Okay.
And that's the answer to the question,
Card access. Thank you very much. Okay. More questions, please. Hi.
Hi. Barbara Major, 62 Norton Avenue. I have a question about the pumps and filters. Where will they be located?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm writing it down.
And will you keep the existing driveway which enters at Halleck Street? It's drawn lightly as existing in your drawing that you submitted to the town, so it's existing, but will it be kept there? Because it's an invitation to park there if there's a driveway there. So will the original driveway of 25 Halleck remain, is my question.
I have no other information that other than the existing driveway will remain, but I will verify if there are any changes in the offing for the next meeting.
And if it does remain, which you're indicating that it probably will they be allowed to park there? So it'll be posted, no parking, I'm assuming. Okay.
I hear your question.
Okay, thank you. And the entrance, there's a walkway entrance on that side of Halleck as well? A gate from the driveway? If you're not familiar, you can look. It's right on the end of the driveway on the Halleck Street side, another entrance with a walkway, which is open for the neighborhood to enter? Okay. Well, how secure? Other pools in the area have one of those things you just lift up and you can go right.
Access. To open the gate, it's going to
I
require a
thought
key
you said
card.
you weren't sure, you were going to
Well,
check.
and they just found out.
Oh, okay, I didn't understand that, okay. A key card for residents to swipe. Okay, great, thank you for clarification on that. That's it.
Okay, so Claire, the one question that didn't get answered for you is the location of the pumps, and we can provide that?
Yep.
Okay.
And filters?
Pumps and filters, yep.
And do you know what hours the filters will be running?
Oh, I suspect from 7 to 9, unless the pool is not in use, in which case perhaps not.
Okay. Only because, being a prior pool owner myself, we ran the filters through the night so that it didn't, because usually people don't swim when the filters are running. So it would be counterintuitive to run the filters during the operational hours.
I will find out.
Okay, so when will the filters be running and for how long?
Okay.
And where will they be located? Thank you.
Hi, please.
Chairman, a few quick questions. Mike Patella from Brenner Saltzman Wallman here with Stan and... Slow down? Sure. Sure. Mike Cretella, lawyer at Brenner Saltzman Wallman in New Haven, representing Stan and Arlene Mingione, who own 20 Halleck Street. Just a few quick questions, Marjorie. What is the maximum occupancy for this particular property?
I don't know.
At the last hearing, there was a discussion of a maintenance vehicle
On the premises,
on the 66 High Street.
correct. Means for the security.
And will alcohol be permitted on the property?
Doesn't sound like a good idea, but they asked.
And I know you've been asked a couple times about parties, and I believe your answers were focused on parties inside the building, but I think a lot of neighbors are concerned about whether there will be pool parties, such as birthday parties, showers, weddings, that kind of stuff in the pool area.
I don't know the answer to that question, and I will talk to the developer about it. And that seems to be an item that is able to be managed by rules.
Thank you.
So we got max occupancy, alcohol permitted, and the events that are going to be held outside. Perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions? No, you absolutely can ask us as well. You still come up and get me on for the record, please. Remember, that microphone's only for the camera. I know you did it already, but do your name
That's
anyway,
okay.
please.
Kristen Floyd, 31 High Street, 59 Norton Avenue. So because this was continued a couple times, some people that are very concerned are not going to be able to be present at the August 16th second hearing. I happen to be one of those people, so if you could please tell me and everybody else how we can make sure that our concerns are brought up again and our voices heard on the second meeting, because I heard in past meetings when a second hearing comes up, you know, you ask if is so-and-so still here, and if they're not here, it's kind of like, well, they didn't show up, so.
In the past, practice had been write a letter, send it to zoning, and it usually would get read into the record that night.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is that right? Yes. I'm not an attorney, so kind of winging it.
The only thing is when someone writes a letter, the commission, and they're not at the meeting, the commission doesn't have an opportunity to ask them questions.
Right, but your letter will be read. Or heard by us again. Hi.
If there were those kinds of letters, and of course we welcome them as well, we'd love to see them in advance of the hearing so that we can respond to them and try to provide answers without walking away without answers. Thank you.
Other questions? And there is a second public hearing on this, so obviously you guys got time to think about it and ask any other questions. So do we have any other questions at this point? Okay, I am, because it is a public hearing, even though there's a second public hearing, I am going to ask if anybody would like to speak in favor tonight. Please don't forget name and address. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Stan Dombrowski. I actually live at 66 High Street. I just want to speak to the quality of the work that's been done on that development. The unit that I live in personally, the craftsmanship is terrific, and I would expect the same work to be done on the pool and the pool house area. The developer, to my experience, has always carried through on every promise, and I trust that he will do the same when he builds this project. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? I'll take anybody that'd like to speak in opposition. Please come up.
Allison Alkire, 33 Norton Avenue. My name is Allison Alkire. Rosalind Rubenstein and I reside at 33 Norton Avenue. We're here to express our opposition to the proposed addition of a pool and clubhouse to the residences at 66 High Street. When the development of 66 High was proposed, its surrounding neighbors acknowledged, albeit somewhat reluctantly, the contribution incoming residents could make to sustaining downtown businesses and maintaining the vibrancy of our community. Mr. Horton cooperated with review committees to ensure that the design and the size of his buildings would complement our historic area, and the approved footprint for the development was contained to that of the previous industrial owner. Mr. Horton seemed sincere in his commitment to blending his development into the community. However, the proposed pool and clubhouse would set a dangerous precedent by encroaching upon the physical space of surrounding homeowners, altering the ambience, aesthetics, and appearance of a quiet residential neighborhood. Residents of 66 High live literally within steps of the proposed pool site, so a clubhouse would not seem very necessary, even to facilitate the usual quick changes of clothing or to get drinks or snacks. Instead, it is our understanding that the clubhouse and pool area would be made available for indoor and outdoor parties, which can be expected to impose unnecessary noise and intrusive outdoor lighting on its neighbors and increase traffic volume on our streets. Even the best of intentions can be undermined. We have already seen an unexpected increase in the volume and speed of traffic down Norton Avenue due to increasing use of the emergency exit at the rear of 66 High. It's simply more convenient for some people to come and go that way, so they eschew the designated main entrance. Similarly, parties can get out of hand, and while local ordinances may be of use in curtailing such intrusions when necessary, they cannot speak to the frequency with which they might occur, and they do little to enhance neighborhood relations. For these reasons, and in the interest of preserving our neighborhood, we encourage you to give serious consideration to the concerns of the residents surrounding 66 High Street and to deny the application for pool and clubhouse additions. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak tonight?
Barbara Major, 62 Norton Avenue. So, excuse my glasses. I would like to thank the Planning and Zoning Board for hearing us tonight. My property is located directly across the street from 25 Halleck Street. I've taken a picture for you to view. This is the front view of Halleck Street and a view of the side yard as it is existing now, and followed by a view taken at dusk with the lighting that is present now at the property. So I've taken a picture. One is during the day and one is night. I would like to start by saying that I've supported the 66 High Street condominium project from the beginning. We as a neighborhood reviewed the plans and agreed that it was a tasteful improvement to the existing 66 High Street building and property. It's not that there haven't been issues with construction noise, increased traffic, construction trailers very close to our backyards, but it was tolerable as it was a means to an end. The project stayed contained to the original site plan and the confines of 66 High Street property lines. Now, however, it's proposing to morph into something else. The proposal before you brings the 66 High Street complex out into our neighborhood, basically forming a peninsula protruding down Norton, across Halleck, and then back, scaling the property line of 21 Halleck Street. I'm opposed to the application for a special permit for the change of use of 25 Halleck from a residential home to a communal condominium pool with a large clubhouse for the following reasons. First and foremost, it does not meet the requirements for a special permit per the zoning regulations. Section 273-80 speaks of standards. As to letter A, especially to letter A, the location, type, character, and size of the proposed pool and large clubhouse are not in harmony with the neighborhood. It's going to basically stick out like a sore thumb, like a peninsula. And it does not conform to the appropriate and orderly development of the town and the neighborhood. I feel it will hinder the use of the adjacent lots and will impair the value of our homes. It will greatly change the atmosphere, character, and landscape of our quiet little neighborhood. It simply does not belong there. To this aspect, I'd like to speak about the other condo complexes in the downtown area, being Rollwood, Seaview Terrace, and West River Village. All of these condo complexes have pools that are nestled within the confines of the complex. I have pictures of the pool at Seaview Terrace, the pool at Rollwood Condos, and the pool at West River Village. They're all nestled within the confines of the complex. Sorry, I lost my place. So they're nestled. So because these pools are within the confines of the condo complex, they all have low fencing, minimal lighting, mostly lamppost lighting, and none of them have a clubhouse. None of them have a clubhouse. The activities that will take place at this proposed clubhouse could include parties, weddings, baby showers, bridal showers, bar mitzvahs, etc. And in the previous meeting, the engineer, Mr. Knoll, I'm not sure if his title is engineer, he did say it absolutely would be rented out by the residents. Confirmed. These are not acceptable uses in a residential zone. It has the potential to create a carnival-like atmosphere. Guilford Planning and Zoning has no history of granting a special permit for the change of use for a condo pool and a clubhouse in a residential zone. There's really nothing to compare this to for a reason. It really can set a precedent for the town for future special permit applications. As to letter B, the owners have stated in writing that the proposed use does not entail exterior alterations to the footprint of the existing structure, quote, end quote. This really doesn't say anything other than they will not change the exterior of the existing foundation to the residents. We do not know anything further about the details of the building. So it's correct in stating that there's no change to existing fire protection. However, without these exact details about the proposed building, how can we really know that to be true? As to letter C, The streets serving this proposed use are not adequate to carry prospective traffic and can absolutely cause traffic hazards and traffic congestion. There's already an increased traffic on Norton Avenue due to the use of this back entrance. This is supposed to be an emergency exit only and is used frequently by the residents of 66 High Street, both exiting and entering the complex. They are technically driving over a right-of-way. It's a right-of-way. Here's our survey, which you can see for the record. This is a personal survey of our property. It's stated in the land records it is a 50-foot right-of-way. But it's intended for minimal use. So there's already an increase in traffic with the condos only 25 to 30% full. What happens when they're at full capacity and bring these guests to the pool? Where will all these people park? As to letter D, the lot is not sufficient in size for the use. This is my opinion. I understand setbacks for residential permits and meeting setbacks and all of that, but this is a very unique situation. It's not a residence, it's not a home, it's not a residential structure. The proposal is not. It will use the majority of the lot for the large pool and the large clubhouse. It includes extensive patio space and a covered area adjacent to the pool. Walkways, fencing, and lighting are basically at the lot line on 3 of the 4 sides. They are at the lot line. So the fencing will go all the way around the property at the lot line. This is just not neighborly. As to letter E, the architectural design is an unknown. All that has been stated is that there is no alteration in the footprint of the existing structure planned. As to letter F, the property right now is not in the historic district, but 66 High Street is. This proposal makes 25 Halleck adjoining to 66 High Street. I've been told that 25 Halleck will not be part of the historic district, and there will not be any changes to the zoning maps, that it will be, quote-unquote, kept privately owned. I wonder how this can be. Some other points I would like to address. This proposal can create an attractive nuisance. Swimming pools are in the top 3 attractive nuisances, mostly number 1, second, sometimes second only to railroads. The definition of an attractive nuisance is anything on your premises that might attract children or animals into danger or harm. There are many children and animals in our neighborhood, and despite precautionary fencing, this is definitely a safety concern. I believe this proposal will have a negative effect on my property value. Declining property values mean taxes drop. This can have a negative economic effect on the town. I would like to encourage the residents of 66 High Street to join our already existing community pools, Guilford Pool and Racquet Club and Guilford Yacht Club. Both are within close proximity to the complex and would aid in Guilford's economic growth. And lights. I can't say enough about the lights. The current residential home has 1 low-impact light in their front porch and 1 on their side entrance. The proposed plan calls for 15 bollard lights. This is a severe change from what is currently there. 42 inches and pointing downward still doesn't affect the glow and the surrounding fence that goes on forever. This is far from a pleasant aesthetic view. These 2 changes are a drastic alteration to the landscape and peaceful feel of the area. Extreme fencing and lighting are not in harmony with the neighborhood. In summation, I would like to say that it is not our fault that the condo pool is not a part of the original plans, and I now feel that the neighborhood is paying the price for this oversight. I would like to encourage them to change the condo plans and not our neighborhood, find a place within the condo complex for the pool. I strongly urge the Planning and Zoning Commission to deny this application for a special permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to submit that for the record?
Certainly, yes.
Anybody else looking to speak in opposition this evening?
Actually, I'm sorry, can I add one thing?
Sure.
I forgot. I do have a letter, 2 letters, from an appraiser and a realtor. In full disclosure, this is my mother and my stepfather, but they have 30-some-odd years. Well, I have a relationship with them, too. I did not pay them. I did not pay them. There was no fee paid for these. This is an honest opinion. They have worked in both Fairfield and New Haven counties. Broker, real estate agent, builder, home builder, and owner of a real estate company, and a real estate agent with located in Southport, Connecticut. And their both opinions are that they will definitely lower the property value.
And one of them is an appraiser? A certified appraiser?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Of course.
We will maintain them in our record as.
Yes, yeah, you're going to give them back, right? Hi.
Me again.
It's okay.
Hi, I'm Kristen Floyd, 31 High Street, 59 Norton. I just wanted to give a little bit of background on why we're here representing two properties. We've lived in 31 High Street for over 10 years, and we loved our neighborhood so much that when my husband's father moved to Guilford, we purchased a house on 59 Norton so he would be part of the neighborhood with us. And through him walking over to visit us, he introduced us to a lot of our neighbors that we're working with today to protect that neighborhood. Unfortunately, he died in March. And we decided to hold on to the house because my husband and I thought we would move back into it when we downsized. So when you talk about the special permit and that letter A where it talks about that changes will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent lots or impair the value thereof, if this goes through, it's going to impair our improvement of that lot because we're not going to invest the money into it that we would to improve it, which I think will be a net loss to the town. The economic benefit of 66 High Street is already priced in my opinion, in the original application, and putting in this pool can only detract from the tax base because we believe strongly that it will impair the value of our homes. I would not buy that house now if this pool was across the street. And I'm sure I know it's anecdotal, but I am not by far the only person that would have that reaction. So we showed up at the last meeting just on the strength of the letter that 66 High Street sent us. We had not organized, we had not known about it ahead of time. There were no big signs. And still, we were all so outraged that we showed up, at that meeting. And since that time, we've gotten quite a bit more organized. We went around and we got a petition had a petition signed by 33 unique households on Halleck, Norton, High Street, and South Fair. It represents 46 different individuals, and we will continue to get more signatures before the next meeting. It is a majority of the neighborhood. We also talked about hiring a lawyer to represent us. I actually contacted Marjorie Shansky to ask her to represent us, and she informed me that she had a conflict because of 66 High Street. So this is just a signal of how upset we are about this and how much we feel this is not promoting the neighborhood. I don't know if Mr. Dabrowski's still here, but I agree the quality of the work in 66 High Street is great, and if he would like to offer his place as an amenity for the development, I think that would be great, but I don't think that 25 Halleck is the place for an amenity. I know Attorney Shansky said that it goes beyond expectation that people will want to have parties there, but Commissioner Brown, was right there saying, well, people are going to want to have parties. It's logical that if this is available, people are going to want to use it. Even if parties are not allowed, just the normal daily use of 57 units and their guests from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., that is out of character from the neighborhood. I mean, yes, we have a couple pools. 4 kids might splash around in them for a couple hours. That is not the same thing as what they're proposing here. So I'm not even going to get to B through E because I think A is all that we need. It is not. The location, type, character, and size of the use or any structure or connection therewith shall be in harmony and conform to the appropriate and orderly development of the town and the neighborhood and will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent lots or impair the value thereof. So I don't even think we need to talk about parking. I don't think we need to talk about parking or lighting or anything like that because 57 people using a pool in what used to be a neighborhood or 57 times 2 or 4, whatever. That's just not a use. So I'm really glad that you're giving us the chance to speak. I think that, the reason that we have a planning and zoning board is to protect homeowners. This little neighborhood right near the green is very special. It's not going to be recreated somewhere else in Guilford. So I implore you to hear us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Councilman? Absolutely.
Again, for the record, my name is Mike Crutella. I'm an attorney at Brenner, Saltzman, Wallman. Represent Stan and Arlene Minjon, who live at 20 Halleck Street. I just want to give a brief statement and then invite my clients up to tell you in their own words their opinions on this potential project. Sure.
Excuse me, in the back. Can you just give her those pieces of paper back, please? Just, yes, just give them back.
Give her the letter back now.
Thank you.
Excuse me, those letters are in the record.
Yeah, they're gonna
Yes.
come in. Well, at some point, it's a public record, you could absolutely, everyone could see them.
Are they entered into the record right now, Reggie?
Can you just,
Are those letters in our
they are,
record?
can we just,
They were first
can you,
presented
would
tonight.
you like to give them to the record?
So they're not in the record yet. They will be.
That's fine. I said whoever would like these can absolutely make copies and whatnot.
Just for the record, anybody in the public would have copies of those?
Everything that's in the record.
Everything in the record. Go ahead.
All right, thank
Sorry.
you. I just want to give a brief statement about a little context to this proposal and the history of this property. Then I'm going to invite my clients up to tell you in their words how this will affect them. And if I could, at the end, circle back briefly just to go through the 273-80 factors and why we don't believe they're met in this case. I prepared a packet with a few exhibits I'd like to share with the board, so if I could pass these out for the record. If you turn to Exhibit A, this is just an overhead shot of the neighborhood, and I've identified on the picture the proximity of my client's property to the proposed site. My clients, as well as a lot of people that live in this neighborhood, purchased it because it is a quintessential Guilford Village neighborhood. It is a tree-lined street, it is quiet, it is very peaceful. If you look at the second exhibit, Exhibit B, this is a photograph taken from the corner of Halleck and Norton, looking north up Halleck Street. Stan and Arlene's property is you can see the yellow porch to the right of the photo. The driveway just to the lower left of the photo is the driveway of the subject property. And I believe this photo shows you that Halleck Street is in fact a very narrow street. There are no publicly enforced prohibitions on parking on Halleck Street, and you could just imagine what parking could be like if people were to decide to do that. This is an application to amend a February 2015 special permit, and Exhibit C is the minutes of the February 18th, 2015 public hearing. There were a few representations or promises made at that hearing, which I think are undermined by the current application. There was, Mr. Knoll, who's not in the audience, was asked about expansion by one of the commissioners, and he told the commission, no, there's no expansion, there's no more room on this property. I think a lot of people who supported the project at that point took this and other representations to mean what you see is what you get. We're not going to support them now and then them come back and ask for something else. And I think that representation was undermined by this particular application. The second point is there was a lot of discussion about what was called a fire department access road. And that is what was supposed to be an emergency access road to the south. And as you've heard from some people tonight, and as you'll probably hear from more people, that access road has been abused. It has turned into a unenforced, entry and exit point, and it's definitely impacting the neighborhood. Finally, the engineer was asked about lighting. He represented that there would be no exterior lighting on the neighborhood side of the building, and that, in his words, there'd be no spillover. I think this current application undermines some of those problems or promises. And my clients, for the record, were very supportive of the project, and we think they've done a great job in terms of construction. It's a very nice place. But they were supportive when the project was adding something to the community. I think a lot of people in this room see this carving out of a residential house as taking something away from the neighborhood. And that is why they oppose it right now. I'm now going to ask Stan to come up and just give you a brief, short statement of his feelings on the property.
Hi, Stan Minjone, 20 Halleck Street. Just going to reiterate a lot of what has already been said by some of my neighbors. We are opposed to the development of 25 Halleck. We feel that it is not in keeping with the harmony of our neighborhood as it exists currently. Although the look of the structure will be residential, the use certainly is not going to be residential, and there are no other homes in our neighborhood that have been converted to a clubhouse and a pool. Just a little background, my wife and I purchased our home 4 years ago. After an exhausted search, we settled on this Halleck Street area because of the neighborhood. We wanted a quiet neighborhood, and also we wanted a house with a front porch, which we did get. Sitting on that front porch right now is kind of our respite. From a hard day's work, tough week, whatever's going on in life, we like to sit there, relax, and like I said, it's kind of our respite. Looking across the street at our neighbors, commiserating with our neighbors, now we're going to be looking at a pool and a clubhouse, which kind of changes the dynamics of what we had bought into. As Mike had said, we had supported the original development of 66 High Street in its original context, and we were not aware of, at the time, of any encroachment into our neighborhood. I have a concern that where does this encroachment stop? Is it the next house that's going to be trying to be purchased, the next house? Where does the encroachment end? In terms of noise, when we are sitting on our front porch, we can hear conversations from 66 High when people are outside on their patios. Direct conversations, voices carry, especially in that area with the open marsh. With regards to the traffic, I'm going to just reiterate what everybody else said. Residents of 66 High are using the Norton Street emergency exit to enter and exit the property, which does create a traffic hazard. Some of those vehicles, I can tell you, are not obeying the speed laws coming out of the development. So all these things contribute to a loss of privacy on our part, and not something we feel the residents should have to deal with.
Counsel, did you want to? Oh. Okay.
Arlene Minjone from 20 Halleck Street. So my husband was not kidding when he said that it was exhausted. The point that I'm going to bring across is a little bit of the emotional point. I know you've heard all about the lights, you've heard about the traffic and such, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of where I'm coming from with this personally. So it was exhaustive. Our file was 2 file boxes big. When we found this house, we opened up our pocketbooks, an extra $100,000, because we said, this is the house. It was quiet. It was quaint, minimal traffic. There's only 5 houses on the entire street of Halleck, and it was so close to the town. It was the perfect house. So that's why we bought this house, with the intentions of it staying that way. So we've made some changes to our house to create relaxing settings all around the house, outside. Stan told you about the front porch. And although with 66 High we have noticed that the traffic has picked up, it's still an area of respite for me, and I'm literally saying respite. I have been known to fall asleep on that porch. So with that area, the south that's the closest to this project, we invested in putting a hot tub, a patio, and a fire table so that at night we could go out there and it was completely private. Even when people go by, we chose not to put a fence all the way around so that when people walk by, it still looks like a park setting. But we created it in a way that it would be private. And with the additional traffic that will be going through there when that clubhouse and that pool's put in, we're going to lose the privacy that we intended on and we worked so hard to create in that area. When there's additional lighting, even that glow is going to illuminate and disturb that quiet area. So, additionally, not only the outside, the inside of the house, I just want to kind of give you an idea. There's only one unit that has been put up at 66 High Street, and we fully support what they're doing over there. But even with that one building, the upstairs of our home is illuminated at night. There's not even the other two big buildings that are up there. So just the additional lighting on the corner of our street, which is right there, anything is going to add extra light and extra disturbance to that quiet, peaceful area that we have and that we bought. So I have to tell you that there was one instance that they did have a party over there. There's only one instance that I recall so far that they've had a major gathering over there. That day, the music filtered over and through the area, and it sounded like it was from my backyard. Quite honestly, an occasional party here and there, I don't mind in our neighborhood because that's what neighbors do. Every once in a while, they'll have a party, but usually we're invited. But anyways, this day, the music was extended over to the property, and every spot on the roads was taken with parking. So there's your answer right there. When there's a party, and a big party, they park along the streets. Our street is not even big enough for two cars to go by. One has to kind of pull aside so that the other one can come through. Anyways, so we went to go find out what the noise was all about, what was going on, maybe it's a party or something. So we walk around there and went to the entrance at South Fair, and we were stopped by a police car. So it was definitely a party that was inside 66, but that's what we were met with. So it's really it wasn't part of the neighborhood. So anyways, so what I can say is that the property may seem to you as a structure. It may seem like a residential property. However, for me, that property is so much more. That was the home of a friend. And I'm sad, and while I'm sad to see her leave the neighborhood, what I'm truly disheartened about, and I mean disheartened, is that that particular home will never again have the potential of being a friendly neighbor, a neighbor to visit, a neighbor to invite over to my home and to create memories with. No matter how much those proposed plans are tweaked to make it seem residential, it will never be residential without a family inhabiting those rooms. That would be the only use for that property that would truly be harmonious for our little neighborhood with our street that consists of 5 homes. So I ask that the amendment for the special permit be denied in order to protect the harmony and character of our quaint and quiet neighborhood. And I thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thank you. Would you like to enter that into the record? Copy of that.
My bullet points?
Thank you. And then we are going to... That's okay.
If I could just
bring us right back around here.
Sum up the 27380 factors, which I believe you are all familiar with. And as you know, the applicant has the burden to demonstrate compliance with all these, meaning if one of them isn't satisfied, the commission should technically deny the application. I want to focus on 4 in particular: harmony and conformity with the neighborhood, detrimental to the neighborhood and adjacent lots, the traffic and congestion, and the imperative value. I just would like to note that This is, there is a safety concern that was brought up by one of the prior residents. This is an unattended pool, essentially, with a 6-foot-high fence. This isn't like the type of pool in someone's backyard where you look out the kitchen window and see if people are in there. This is an unattended pool where the nearest person associated with the pool is in the 66 High Street property. There's no one going to be in this lot monitoring the pool. And I think that poses a safety hazard in general. It's not in harmony with the neighborhood. This is a clubhouse. It's more akin to a hotel pool than it is a residential neighborhood. As you heard, there's about 5 houses on this street. Now there'll be 4, and a hotel pool servicing 115 residents and apparently all of their guests. I think noise is a big issue. It's, Guilford, for its sake, has adopted a noise ordinance, which I've included in your packet as Exhibit D. And Guilford is somewhat unique in this, and Madison doesn't have a similar noise ordinance. But Guilford, in its noise ordinance, it says people have a right to the peace and quiet. And it adopts an objective standard. It says 55 decibels during the day and 45 decibels at night. The question is, what is 55 decibels? I attached Center for Disease Control handout, and the volume that I'm talking to you now is around 60 decibels sitting where you are there. I don't believe that this pool can accommodate potentially 100 people, or even 10 or 20 people at a time without exceeding the Guilford noise ordinance. And I note for the record that there's been no noise study submitted by the applicant, and I think they've failed to establish that noise won't be a problem. This isn't something that's unique to the situation. As Exhibit F, I've attached a series of newspaper articles chronicling what happened in Woodbridge when the Jewish Community Center camp sought to expand its hours of an existing pool. They had a permit for 4:30 in the weekdays and nothing on the weekends. They sought 7 o'clock on weekdays and weekends to run a community program for members and their families. Dozens of residents who were actually living next to this pool came out saying it was ruining the neighborhood. They had no peace and quiet in their backyard. They fought it hard. And eventually the Woodbridge authorities declined to grant them the permit to operate on the weekends based on what the neighbor said. They did allow them to operate till 7 o'clock on weekdays on the condition they built a 10-foot sound barrier fence with 5-foot thick of vegetation. I don't think we've heard anything about sound mitigation on this property, and given the very small size of this property, it's about 1/3 of an acre, I don't think it's possible. The next thing in your packet as Exhibit G is a noise study. And now this is what happens when people propose community pools. They go out, get an expert to sit next to other pools of similar size and conduct noise studies. And this one was done for the city of San Diego a couple years ago. And on page 5, importantly, of this study are the results of what this person found. The pool equipment itself, these results note, had a maximum level of 59 decibels. And that's just the equipment for the pool, the pumps and the filters, which exceeds the standards for Guilford's ordinance. On the next page, they went out and tested 2 pools in Escondido and Oceanside, one from a distance of 45 feet away. There were about 30 people in the pool area, measured a maximum decibel level of 68.6 decibels, which is more than 15 decibels higher than Guilford's daytime requirements. Another with 25 people in the pool from a distance of 20 feet, decibel levels were measured at 78 decibels, which is more than 22 points higher than what Guilford allows during the day. And that was for a distance of 20 feet. Guilford measures the decibel level in the noise ordinance from the property line. In this case, I haven't done measurements, but it appears the property line is 10 or 15 feet away. I don't think they can do this with any significant number of people there at any given time without being in violation of the Guilford noise ordinance. And for that reason, I think it is definitely detrimental to the neighborhood, and the applicant hasn't satisfied that prong. With respect to property values, I would just point out that the appraisal submitted appears to be from a certified appraiser, but it does not appear to be a certified appraisal. And I believe there is a distinction there. And if you'll look at the second or third page of that, and you can do this on your own in between the next hearing, he equates this particular pool to the type of pools that are typical of single-family residences. And I think that is the type of flaw in this analysis that would lead this board to just simply discredit his opinion. Obviously, this is not a typical pool. It's larger in size, and it's aimed towards servicing 58 units with potentially 115 residents and their guests. That is not a typical residential pool, and for that reason, this letter from the appraisal person is not to be believed. It is common sense that no one wants to live next to a pool with this intensive use. You've heard that from everyone here tonight, and I'm sure you'll hear it again. Finally, the traffic, you've heard a lot about that. There is currently no prohibition on parking on these neighborhood streets that's imposed by the town. You've seen the picture of how narrow Halleck Street is. There's nothing to ensure that these neighbors will be free from people parking in front of their streets. And, you know, as we've heard from prior assurances about this fire department lane, what they came and said in 2015 hasn't actually turned out to be the case. You know, it's for these reasons that we believe the applicant has failed to satisfy all of the criteria as its burden under Section 273-80. And I'd appreciate answer any questions the board would have. If not, I'll sit down and. Sure.
This noise assessment study, it looks like it's done by a qualified firm, and I don't want to just make an assumption and grant them that this is the absolute truth. Do you know anything about LDN Consulting? Are they certified? And I probably can look that up myself.
I don't. This was not a study that I commissioned or had any part with. It was something that was publicly available. No personal relationship.
Purely out of the blue, you're not related to them, so you did not influence these numbers?
No, I did not at all.
Okay.
And in fact, this noise study was just a product of an internet search for publicly available noise studies. Because it was for the city, it became a public document.
This study says that the noise levels generated by the pumps alone exceed Guilford's noise standards.
Yes, and I believe that's from right next to the pumps. In this case, with Guilford's noise standards, it would have to be measured from the property line to wherever.
As you said, it's a third of an acre, and so even if they put it in the very center of the property, at one of the property lines, they're not going to be more than 25 feet.
We have serious concerns that the pumps themselves will violate, especially if they're running at night where the decibel level is 45 decibels in Guilford, which is a very, very low threshold.
And further in the study, it says that the noise during occupancy and use is around 60 decibels, I think, or 68. And I'll read this and I'll observe it, but that seems pretty substantial and in excess of the daytime allowance of the noise standards. So that's an important study.
And like I said, it's provided just as an example to the commission that these types of pools and these types of community pools do create noise that could potentially be in excess of Guilford's ordinance, and it is the applicant's burden to demonstrate to you that this particular one won't.
I actually had a couple questions about that noise study too. Do you know can you compare the size of the pump that's in this study to the size of the pump that's being proposed by, like, do we know, because obviously there could be some really, residential pools have some pretty quiet pumps, and then obviously commercial pools might be much bigger and louder. So, I mean, I don't know, I didn't look at the study, but I'm assuming you did. Was this based on a much larger pump than a residential pump, or was this based on a residential pump?
I don't know the size of the pump that's going to be put into this pool. I don't know the location of it, and I don't believe they get into the exact type of pump. I do believe the pool that was proposed in that may have been of a larger size. I would have to look back at that. But there, if it's a smaller pool, maybe the pumps are quieter. I don't know.
And also, do you know what the depth of that pool was or the size of that pool? Because I would imagine that would play some impact onto the noise that it would generate. Deeper pools may have louder splashes, or I have no idea. I just want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples when we're reviewing this.
And the information about the noise coming from the equipment itself, I think is relevant because it's not something I thought of before really investigating this particular application. But I do think that the part of the study where there's 25, I think there were kids in the pool, and they measure something like 78 decibels from 25 feet away, that's something that could regardless of the size of the pool, could occur at this property.
I mean, that would occur at any residential pool property, probably. If they have a pool party there, and the Guilford Police are called to listen to the noise.
Well,
I mean, and we don't, I mean, obviously, noise is definitely a consideration that we would take as a factor pursuant to our regulations, but we don't regulate or enforce noise here from this commission. It's the Guilford
Exactly.
Police Department.
But, you know, it's better to prevent a problem than it is to deal with it after it's already built. And just in terms of your comparison, there's, you know, as my clients testify, they like parties and neighborhood parties, but there's a fundamental difference between a family of four having a party on Labor Day and 4th of July and Memorial Day than there is of a site like this available to 115 residents. There's a fundamental difference between that. They could potentially have parties there, you know, every weekend without running through all the units. And that's if the pool party was open all week. For the summer, 58 units for a 3-month summer, it seems like there's going to be gatherings there more often than not, and way in excess of what you'd expect from a residential home.
Good. Thank you very much, Counsel. So, if there's anybody else that would like to speak in opposition, I will invite you to do so.
Frank, I got one more question.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer it. If you know, I can foresee that on busy days, when the residents are using it and the parking areas at 66 High Street are consumed, that they will park in the streets. And if they park on both sides of the streets, do we know that these streets are big enough to accommodate a fire truck in an emergency situation?
Well, that's something we're definitely going to find out.
How are we going to find that out?
We're going to talk to our staff and contact the fire marshal, right?
So if
Tuesday
cars are
morning staff
parked-
meeting.
If cars are parked on both sides of the streets and the right-of-way, which is part of the way the fire department would get into 66 High Street, my question really is, you know, I know they have a turning radius and I know they have the hook and ladder, so could we get an assurance from the fire department that with cars parked on both sides of that area, whether the fire trucks can still get in an emergency situation?
We'll ask the fire department.
Thank you. We'll have that for the next meeting.
Good, thanks.
And I'm going to continue.
I can answer that. It's anecdotal, but when my father passed away, the emergency trucks came, and there was a car parked across the street, and the fire truck actually got in an accident.
All right, I still need your name and address, and you have to come up. You can't talk from your seat, please.
To try and answer your question, I'm Tom Floyd, 31 High Street. My dad was across the street when he passed away. They came to try and save him, and the fire truck came and actually got in an accident with a car coming out of that easement, Perkins. He was trying to avoid a car that was parked across the street, and you know, it's in the records. I mean, the police had to come. It was pandemonium while my dad was dying. You know, the answer is no. If you have cars parked on those streets, there's not going to be a fire truck that can get through there. I observed it. I just wanted to share it.
Thank you very much.
We'll still have the fire marshal weigh in.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So in the interest of time, we're still going to let everybody come up and talk. I do want to keep in mind that there is, if you have something that's already been said, please limit it. We want to hear everybody, but please limit it due to time. And there is a second public hearing on this on the 16th, but please, come on up. And we do hear everybody's passion for this, so don't think we're just trying to push this by here.
Elizabeth McCartney, 50 High Street. I'll admit to it, I have violated the decibels for the town rules. My dog has violated that on a regular basis, so if you've walked by, Jake's barked at you, and I know it's been violated. This is a quintessential New England beautiful neighborhood. Neighborhood brings up the word neighborly, and I have met some wonderful people in my neighborhood. Some of them don't live there. They just walk through walking their dogs. I met Stan walking his dog, and he is part of our new neighborhood that's attached, and it's a fun place to live. I have delivered St. Patrick's Day cupcakes around my neighborhood. I won't be delivering those to a pool house clubhouse. We have all shoveled each other out. We have all cleaned up after hurricanes. The house in question, we all helped her clean out the second hurricane that destroyed everything that the first hurricane did, because that's the kind of neighborhood we have. We won't be doing that for a clubhouse, because that's not a neighbor, and we're talking about a neighborhood. Think about Mr. Rogers. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. A pool house is not a neighbor in a neighborhood. My Easter egg hunt, nobody from the pool house will be invited to my Easter egg hunt because no one can live there. So they won't be invited to the Easter egg hunt. Hurricanes. I really don't think we have to worry about a pool for 66 High Street, because those of us who have lived there have seen the pool that will be in the underground parking. It'll be a great saltwater pool. I'm sure the lighting will be terrific. So I have an amenity that I have put up for the residents of 66 High Street and the rest of you. It's my basketball hoop. You're welcome to use it, but you have to stop at 10. That's the rule. I pull up my bedroom window and I yell at you. It's time to go home. It's 10 o'clock. I have to go to work the next morning. That's a neighborhood, okay? It's not a pool house. It's not a clubhouse. I like the people who live there, but I don't want their clubhouse in my neighborhood, because my neighborhood is neighborly. When somebody passes away, we mourn for them. When somebody has a new baby, we bring them over dinner. We won't be doing that for a clubhouse, because that's not a neighbor, that's a building. It may look like a residence, but it's not a residence. There's no heart beating in there that has a small child that's sick, and you've got to go over in the middle of the night and watch their other child, like all of us have done for each other. My son gets locked out of the house. He goes to Barbara's house, okay? We all help each other. We carry ladders down the street to each other. We won't be doing that for a pool house or a clubhouse that looks like a house, because there is no heart in that. Thank you. I hope you deny it.
Fifteen minutes. Okay.
We've gone
Come on up.
so he's got extra business.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to pull it on this one. Hey.
Thank you for listening to us tonight. My name is Leslie Marcus. I am the homeowner of 68 Norton Avenue. My property is, along with Barbara Major, it faces the south side of 66 High Street residences, and the property in question for the development of this pool and clubhouse. I will include my statement for the record, and I will avoid going through line items A through D here because they've already been addressed. I bought our home at 68 Norton Avenue in August of 2012. I actually closed on that property 5 years ago today. At the time, it was a quiet street in a warm and inviting neighborhood. Prior to the development of the residences of 66 High Street, we could chat in the middle of Norton Avenue, Halleck, and High Street and greet our neighbors. Our kids could play hoops in the streets without having to worry about oncoming motor vehicle traffic. It was quiet, safe, charming, friendly, and perhaps more importantly, unified. This is why we bought our homes here. When the original development of 66 High Street was pitched and ultimately passed by Guilford Planning and Zoning in February of 2015, it did not include or mention the addition of a pool, clubhouse, or any other amenity, let alone the possibility of buying up adjacent properties for the use of the 66 High Street development. This project was sold to us as highest and best use for the single address of 66 High Street, not including the newly purchased 25 Halleck Street property in question tonight. We were sold on a development that would minimally impact or change the character of our neighborhood, both visually and otherwise. We were also reassured that our property values would see 20 to 30% increases. Our main concerns center on the reduction of value to our homes and the change in character of our neighborhood. We're concerned for the neighborhood as a whole. Already, we have witnessed the misuse of the emergency road, which enters the south side of 66 High Street residences directly in front of our home. While we expected an increase in vehicular activity, the added burden now represented by a maintenance vehicle and a handicap parking space and entry gate, as seen in your current proposal, immediately impacts our streets and our homes. Our other immediate concerns include, but are not limited to, lighting, noise, security, misuse by residents of the community or their guests, hours of operation, increased foot and vehicular traffic, and a club or entertainment-style atmosphere for a pool and clubhouse to serve 57 units, their residents and guests. This pushes our worries beyond the reasonable. It is our contention that no matter how tastefully this project can be executed, it represents a clear threat to the value of our homes and, in turn, the quaint, charming, and quiet neighborhood we've grown to love. Therefore, in my opinion, this proposal fails to satisfy the requirements set forth by the town under the general provisions and standards specified for special permit requirements in sections 273-99 in the following areas, and I'm going to give this to you for the record, as well as photographs that were taken from my front porch, so you can get a visual of the proposed parking for the handicap and also maintenance vehicle and gate access on Norton Avenue.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Okay, there you go. Okay, I think we're going to, what's that?
Should we? We gotta move on.
Yeah, we're going to move on, right?
Yeah.
How much time, Pete? Yes.
There are 3 or 4 items that I'd like to be heard very briefly. I'll keep my major comments till the 16th.
Okay. Absolutely. What do we got, Peter? 5, 7?
9 minutes.
9 minutes. You got it?
We respect the feelings of the neighborhood, for sure. I will say several things, however. Mr. Glidden, my real estate appraiser who is in the room, had an opportunity to review the other letter that was submitted, which I haven't yet had a chance to see, but which was submitted. And in it, he cites, and the letter can corroborate, that the gentleman who wrote it stopped being an appraiser or a licensed appraiser in 2000, and therefore the validity of that letter is in issue because it is not from a currently licensed and certified real estate appraiser. With respect to the comment that Mr. Glidden's letter is not an appraisal, it is not an appraisal. An appraisal is an estimate of market value. What Mr. Glidden's letter is, based on his research, his examination of the property, his examination of the request, and other records, including assessment records and multiple listing records and the like. It's an opinion of value incidental to the introduction of this use. So let us not confuse what it is. It has absolute validity for what it describes itself. And in the event you have questions for Mr. Glidden, he is here. With respect to the exhibits that Council submitted, I want to caution the Commission, and we'll be happy to bring you lots of noise information on the 16th. But this California study is for a project that consists of the following. This is on page 1. 1 swimming pool and children's wading pool. Building A, approximately 2,500 square foot building that will accommodate restrooms, showers, lockers, laundry facilities, utility storage room, an office and a snack bar. Building B, approximately 3,400 square foot multi-purpose building containing offices, children's game rooms, a large activity room, restrooms, and a 900 square foot covered patio joining buildings B, an open terraced patio with a covered patio located between A and B, and a 37-car parking lot with 5 golf cart spaces proposed terraced below the swimming pool and building activity area. In other words, it is not equivalent, synonymous, or comparatively relevant for this residential scale pool because let us consider that this meets all of your zoning standards. As Commissioner Bauer noted in the June 21st hearing, the meters could have a pool of this size with a 6-foot fence. There's nothing about what is being proposed that in and of itself is violative of your standards. It's hard to talk about the extraordinary large clubhouse, or the large clubhouse as people have characterized it, against an existing building that will not have any exterior alterations that make it bigger. So, you know, it's important to keep a focus on exactly what's being proposed, which is not to say that these comments are not also important to evaluate, but to not lose focus on what is before you. What is before you is a proposal that meets your regulations in dimensional form, and about which we can discuss the special permit criteria. I will jump to, and by limiting my comments this evening, be assured that I'm not waiving my ability to comment on everything that's been said this evening. I just want to plant these seeds lest you walk away with the wrong impression. Council suggested that there were 3 ways in which this undermined the original approval and used the 2015 minutes. Well, it's 2 years later, and we're here legitimately under a provision in your zoning regulations that permit this request to be made. He said, reciting to the minutes, that there was on the question of expansion as to 66 High Street, and the comment was made, no more room on this property. And to me, I see that as a density question. Will there be any more units on the 66 High Street property? That is not a sort of putting a wall around and a lock and key at the end. That is what legitimately happened in 2015. And with respect to the lighting question and the issue of spillover, and we'll give you more demonstrable evidence on this, these 42-inch bollard lights with shields and caps and, sort of the glow that will emit from them is not going to share itself with the neighborhood inside of a 6-foot cedar fence as it will be, and with additional landscaping, which I know is in the file from June, and we'll make sure you have an updated picture on that as well. So this intends to not be intrusive aesthetically in the neighborhood, to not effect substantial change from what is existing. And with respect to the attractive nuisance comment, under today's building code, these pools are alarmed. So there will be somebody who's within response time by virtue of the various appliances. Not only is it scan card, I'm almost done, scan card controlled for access, but they will always have an alarm on them should anybody gain access to the pool when it's not available. The clubhouse closed at 9 o'clock. There's very limited hours. It was commented that the pool is really open for only 3 months. That doesn't make it not important to have these conversations, but it is to say that the pool is open only for a part of the year. With that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your attention and your interest in these various dimensions. Yes?
Yeah, and since you just said it, are there any activities possible for this property outside of that 3 months, which might be considered winter or fall or spring activities? You maybe can come up with an answer. And the only reason I say that is that some resorts where they are active mainly in the winter have developed summer activities. So my question that I would ask if I were them is, what are you going to do in the winter? What will the activities be? Will it just be shut down and vacant, or will it be in use?
And can you hold your answer, because you literally got about 10 seconds left.
I have to just think one more.
We have to go off the record right now because we have.
We'll go right back on the record.
If he's going to change tape, you got to. Got it. All right, we will take a couple minutes?
Not even.
No talking.
No. We will assure the public we have not conducted any business while we were at break, so we're going to resume the public hearing, and we had left off with a couple questions from Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. I will repeat, as I said right before the tape ended, that I have comments and responses to everything that's been said this evening. most of which I will share with you on the 16th in the interest of time. Commissioner Meyer has inquired about the off-season use of the clubhouse, and I will give you a full response to that by letter, probably in between now and the second hearing.
Those things
Well,
may
I will
develop.
say this, that the association will not have a social director. The object is not to keep this like an activity center. It's really passive but active recreation amenity.
Well, this is a fairly expensive amenity, and I could see that after spending this much money, I would want to get more than 3 months' usage out of it. That's why I expressed this concern and wonder if there are any plans in the books already, or, you wouldn't spend $500,000, whatever it is, to use something for 3 months. Or I wouldn't if I were running a business. So anyway, I'm just bringing it up in case there's something you'd want to share.
I appreciate the question, and will give you a full-throated answer in between. Yeah. Then one other comment, also based on the exhibits council provided. The Jewish Center is not an equivalent or comparator to this really residential, because condos, for whatever else in the planet they are single-family residences. They happen to be vertical and horizontal, but this is not a day camp for children. There are not multiple hundreds of individuals who are owners or who send their children to camp for the opportunity of having recreational exterior daytime activities. So I appreciate the spirit in which the exhibits are provided. I ask you to exercise an amount of restraint in imputing the kinds of things you find in those exhibits to this, because by scale they are vastly different. And with that, again, I thank you for your attention and your interest, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
So what I'd like to do, because there is a second public hearing on this, I'm gonna suggest that we move forward. We're not closing it, but to continue the public hearing. And why I say that now is I want everybody from the public to understand that, one, you have access to everything that's been submitted tonight. We are going to take our time to go through everything. We do have a few weeks beforehand, so there was stuff admitted tonight that we haven't been able to really go through, and we will go through everything. It's our job and our duty as commissioners to do that. Also, I would suggest that if anybody would like to get some professional opinions or other thing to help their case for the next meeting, I would encourage it, because every bit of information we have, we go through. That would be my recommendation. So while I don't want to cut anybody off, I would like to continue it, because like I said, we do have another public hearing where everybody will be able to be heard again. So.
Well, Frank, is there anyone that is going to be away and
that
will be at
would
the
like
next
to
meeting?
speak at this point?
I mean, again, Tom Floyd, 31 High Street, 59 Norton. It just seems to me that this is a textbook case of why we have, why you guys are here, why we have these laws on the books. You got residents who are clearly upset. You got a deep-pocketed developer with his fancy lawyers. It's with all due respect, they're promising us the moon and the stars. And our experience so far is the promises aren't met. Whether it's landscaping that was promised on South Fair Street that wasn't done, the intensity of the lights, which are ridiculous, the emergency exit, which is supposed to be emergency only, being abused. They're doing it again. They're coming up and saying, oh, it's not going to be used for this, it's not going to be used for that. There's no guarantees. And if you're in our shoes, you're going to react the way we're reacting. We laugh because you can't believe them. You don't know. So, I just think that I'm pleading with you guys to do the right thing, because this is why we have planning and zoning laws and boards for this exact situation. And as far as the economics of it, it just seems to me that it's obvious. It doesn't benefit the town at all, and could potentially be detrimental, because if you don't do what I hope you'll do, you're going to force disgruntled homeowners like me to come after the town with my fancy lawyers, and I don't want to do that. So I'm hoping that it's pretty obvious. I think it's very one-sided. I'm actually amazed that we have to go through this process, because they can't even get past 27380A. It just doesn't pass muster. It's in violation, it changes the character of our neighborhood. So I'll just end on that, and hopefully, I've said my piece. I'm not going to be here on the 16th, but I think my lawyer will be. So if I have more.
Thank you. Sure, and we're going to end it after this one, guys, please.
Barbara Major, 62 Norton Avenue again. I'd just like to clarify a statement made by Attorney Shansky a few minutes ago about Mr. Glidden being in the room and that he reviewed the letter. I'd like just to say that as you've encouraged us to try to get letters of professionals, the letters that I submitted are letters of professional opinion only. These are people that have had 30-plus years of real estate experience. And yes, the appraiser is no longer a practicing appraiser, but was for many years, and currently owns and operates a real estate company, was also a builder and developer for many, many years, over 30, 40 years. So you certainly can contact him by phone. It is a letter of professional opinion only. As the board encouraged us to get these letters and to get letters, and various people had encouraged us, it is quite an enigma that we're dealing with here because there's nothing to compare it to. I can't get a CMA on my home of how it is now and how it is with a proposed pool. I can't tell a prospective buyer, oh, there's a pool across the street. How will the noise affect me? Because I don't know. I haven't gone through a summer yet. I believe that will cut my prospective buyers in half because that's pretty much a real estate law that if there's a pool, your buyers are split in half. By 50%. Won't even look at your house, especially if it's across the street from a community pool. So as we went down this road to try to obtain these letters, we were met with, we can't get an appraisal because we can get an appraisal on what's existing, but it's a proposal and there's nothing to compare it to. There are no comps. I can't do a CMA and get comps on this house. I'm insulted by the statement that it's comparable to a private person having a pool. I'm insulted by that. I'm sorry, we all are. It is nothing like that. It is nothing like I am not going to have, even if one person lives in all those units, I don't have 57 people living at my house. So the potential is there. Whether it will be or not, the potential is there to create a circus-like atmosphere and party-like atmosphere, as someone stated earlier. With the summer and 57 units, it basically could be every single weekend. So just to clarify again, the letters are of professional opinion only from a realtor with 35 years experience and a current realtor and owner of a real estate company that has appraisal experience and also is a builder. Thank you.
And like I said, for the record, everything is on the record, so it can be viewed by everybody by going down to Town Hall South.
Yep.
All right.
Good work, Frank.
I'll make a motion to continue.
Second.
To
August 16th.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for everybody for participating. Much appreciated. Okay. Approval of revised agenda. We are still conducting the meeting, so can we talk outside, guys? Everybody get out.
Get out, just get out.
No. So we have
Make a motion to approve the revised agenda, Mr. Chair.
Guys, can you please take the conversations outside? We're still holding a meeting. Thank you. It is.
It's part of the record. Okay, deliberation of public hearing items.
Okay, so the first one,
Dino Esposito.
I will make a motion if I can find it.
What is it?
Wait,
well,
doesn't
well,
Alan
hold
want
on.
to read those,
We
right? Let Alan read that,
Alan,
please.
but you gotta include like,
Okay. Board of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approves a request for Diane Auger to renew a special permit for sale of process of organic topsoil at 5051 Durham Road, map 129, lot 1, as shown on the application dated June 1st, 2017, heard at a public hearing on July 12th and August 2nd, 2017. The application approved with the following conditions. Number one, the special permit revision requires that on August 1st, 2019, unless renewed with the commission. Part two, all previous conditions are enforced. This application is approved based upon the finding that it is conforms with the zoning code. The special permit extension is effective August 11, 2017, upon the filing with the town clerk.
And I'll second that if you make the two conditions, that two letters from Kevin McGee. He wrote a letter for the previous hearing, or 2 hearings ago, and the new letter. So if those are part of the conditions, then I'll second that. Okay. Second.
So in discussion, Mr. Chairman, we've been assured by staff that this conforms with the legal process and meets all the requirements of a legal decision by this commission. And based on that, I feel comfortable moving forward.
I agree completely. As much as I don't want to see, see what happened, we're going to listen, I believe, in this case, to the town attorney who advised us that this was legal.
Attorney Millman reviewed it, so
So
I have to go on her word.
we do at this point, and, I'll support it as well.
Hold the vote, sir.
Alan?
We went along with the town attorney, that's basically saying.
Okay. All right, so we had a motion, we have a second. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries.
There's some applications to be received. Oh, no.
You have to do the Guilford mooring.
Were there 2 hearings?
No, just
Cam doesn't.
Cam.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve the site plan and coastal site plan application for the moorings at 505 Whitfield Street.
165.
165 Whitfield Street, Matt. That's his house number, right? Map 29, lots 107, for an outdoor service bar and patio is shown on the zoning location survey for the moorings dated May 22nd, 2017, prepared by Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates. The application is approved with the following conditions: that the number of seats at the restaurant and the outdoor seating is not to exceed 165. The application is approved based on findings that the variance approved it conforms with the zoning code and is consistent with coastal area management policies of the state of Connecticut.
Second. So, Mr. Chairman, this gentleman is doing the right thing. He is bringing the paperwork to match what is in the real world, and I applaud his efforts. I think it's great, and I wish everybody would do that. So I'm going to support this 100%.
Any other comments, guys? All right, so I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstained? No. Carries full. Okay, then we have some applications to be received.
Dino Esposito Auger, 5051 Durham Road, map 129, lot 1, zone RA, special permit application to compost, horse manure, leaves, and grass clippings mixed with topsoil, section 273-19, receive and set public hearing date of 9/6/17, to be continued to 9/20/17 for a mandatory second public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
CYR Real Estate LLC, 129 Water Street, special permit, change of use of space formerly used as artist studio to real estate office, map 32, lot 17, zone R3, section 273-13, see article 10, receive and set public hearing date for 9/6/17, to be continued 9/20/17.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Guilford Housing Authority, Guilford Court 32, Guilford Court map 53, lot 18A, zone R1, special permit and site plan revision, add 17 parking spaces, 4-foot fence, and relocate dumpster. Table 4, line 10, article 9 and 10, receive and set public hearing at 9/16, to be continued 9/20 for mandatory second public hearing.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Other.
Ron Karen, Perker, 46, Shelwyn Lane, map 38, lot 17, zone R3.
There's nothing before us.
My ex-husband was here, and he put in an application on my property for this special permit application, compost, horse manure, leaves and grass clippings mixed with topsoil. He's asking for a permit for my property.
That's now application has been received. If you have any comments, go to the Town Center South.
Yeah.
Or come to the special special permit hearing date.
Do I have to come back again?
You can just see Reggie and she'll
Go see
have-
Reggie tomorrow during the office hours.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sorry, where we were at, Ron and Karen. So what is this now? Is it
For a pot,
request to place a 16-foot pond in an upper driveway.
Is anyone here?
Period of 8/1/17 to 11/27/17.
Is anyone here?
This is just a storage unit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one is here for this, Reggie?
No, it's just a pod that she wants to have for a short period of time, and then it'll go.
I'll make a motion to,
They've just moved.
I'll make a motion to have a pod at the upper driveway.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Bird's Nest, 25 Water Street, map 39, lot 85, zone C1, request to hold the harvest market on October 8th from 10 to 4. That sounds wonderful.
Stephen is going to do a great job like he always does. Are you making the motion? Or
I'll-
I'll make the
you
motion.
can make the motion.
I'll make the motion. We do this for Stephen.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed the minutes from the 7/19 regular meeting, and they appear substantially correct, so I make a motion that we approve them.
You second it? And everybody was here, so nobody has to abstain, right? All right, all in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, inasmuch as there's no other business before the commission, I make a motion that we close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Peter, thank you.
That lady, who decided was supposed to be there. The question was very relevant. She's probably a lawyer. That question about the question.
Kevin, you, Jay?